Hey, what's up, gentlemen and ladies?
Happy Independence Day to the Gambia.
So today we actually got new screenshots for not only the Final Fantasy VII Remake, but also Kingdom Hearts 3 direct from Tetsuya Nomura himself. I know, what? What wonderful news to wake up to on a random Saturday morning, isn't it? So yeah, Tetsuya Nomura was actually at the Monaco Anime Game International Conferences, also known as MAGIC 2017, where he showed off 3 different screenshots, 2 for the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and 1 for Kingdom Hearts 3 that I will be analyzing for this video. So if you guys are hyped for that, then be sure to blitz that like button, and let's get right into the analysis, shall we? So firstly, here is the Kingdom Hearts 3 screenshot, and for this one, Nomura had to say, this is the first time that we've shown this screenshot of Kingdom Hearts 3, obviously. It's happening in Thebes, which is in the Olympus Coliseum, which you can tell very clearly from those buildings in the background looking very Greek-inspired, and they are fighting a new model of the Sans core. The Keyblade turns into a lot of things. Here it is a shield, but it can also be transformed into a chariot. This is called Power Form. Now, the fact that it's called Power Form is very interesting because I'm not really sure if this is going to be the forms in the game similar to those in Kingdom Hearts 2, except this time your Keyblade transforms into different weapons, or if this is simply the Keyblade transformations that just happen to be translated to form as well, but these aren't actually going to be like the drive forms in Kingdom Hearts 2. Not really sure. Now, when I first saw the screenshot, the first thing that admittedly, the first thing that I noticed is, holy shit, Sora's actually wearing pants. But upon closer inspection, you can actually tell that this is just his regular Kingdom Hearts 3 outfit, except slightly recolored. You can see there's a different pattern on his pants, and obviously the jacket is yellow, which reminds me a lot of Master Form from Kingdom Hearts 2. But the thing that I wanted to point out is that I thought that this was actually taken in the middle of Sora transforming his Keyblade into the chariot. It just seemed a lot like the chariot for me. But apparently no, this is a completely different transformation that is just a shield, which I guess kind of makes sense, and this kind of proves that there is going to be different types of transformations in Kingdom Hearts 3. We're going to have one that transforms into something more of like a practical weapon that Sora can use, and something that turns more into like a giant attack type of thing, similar to the chariot. Another thing that's interesting that I guess is worth pointing out is the fact that Sora is actually using this in the Colosseum, which may not seem like a big thing to point out, but usually you get world-themed Keyblades after you beat the world. Now, of course, it's entirely possible that Sora is just going back to the Olympus Coliseum when they took this screenshot, but I don't know, the fact that he has it already in the world is interesting to me. Nothing too different in the commands over on the bottom left or the HP bar in the bottom right. I guess it is just worth pointing out that Donald and Goofy aren't there, despite the fact that Nomura said they instead of he, but whatever, that might just be a translation error. And the last thing that I would like to point out is there's a bunch of rocks in the ground that don't look like they're normally supposed to be there. They actually remind me a lot of the Lexius fight from Kingdom Hearts 2 specifically. But yeah, either you or presumably the enemy from the looks of it in this screenshot is going to be able to hit the ground and just sort of cause rocks to come up from the ground, which is pretty cool. We had actually already gotten to see a little bit of effects or damage to the environment in one of the older Kingdom Hearts 3 trailers, if I'm not mistaken, where Sora used fire and a little bit of the grass around him sort of just caught on fire just a tiny little bit. Not as extreme as in Final Fantasy XV, but I mean, let's be real, that was just kind of ridiculous in that game. So yeah, I guess it's cool that we're going to be getting a lot more of these. Hopefully we see more of them in new trailers sometime soon, but this is all that I pretty much got for this for right now. I'm sure that there's a couple things that I missed in this screenshot. If there is, then be sure to let me know about those in the comments. But moving on to the really big one, in my opinion anyways, Final Fantasy VII Remake. So Nomura had to say, here is a new image of Final Fantasy VII. I've put a lot of attention into the combat system, and it's going to be going on without interruption. This is the first boss in the game, it's the Guard Scorpion, and the scenery will be partially destructible. Sorry, I asked to show a video, but the company refused. The menus are not yet final, but I will talk more on another occasion. So you see guys, it's not always Nomura's fault that he can't show off footage. Sometimes Square Enix just doesn't let him. By the way, you guys can go ahead and go down to the comment sections and say congratulations on calling it once again, team, because I fucking called it again. So for those of you guys that have no idea what I'm talking about, right when the last Final Fantasy VII Remake trailer came out back in, Jesus, the PlayStation experience of 2015, I was just sitting there analyzing the trailer when I noticed, hey, there is an extra bar in the menu, isn't there? And then I made an entire video talking about why I thought that that was the ATB bar in the game, basically confirming that the game was not action-based, but some kind of hybrid between action and turn-based. And not only was there that, but there was also the fact that Kitase himself said that the remake is not fully action-based, but even despite that, there was still some people saying, no, this game is absolutely going to be action-based. Did you not see the trailer? Without even taking a second to actually analyze the footage. And these screenshots have just confirmed it right there. You guys can see it. The bar very clearly says ATB, so GG, guys. GG. Dean has done it. Once again. But in all seriousness, if you actually take a closer look at the UI, there's nothing really too out of the ordinary. We do see that there is 3 separate ATB bars to fill, which personally reminds me a lot of Final Fantasy XIII's, to how there was separate ATB bars that could each do different levels of attacks. And right here we see that they have something similar to that. Cloud's entire first AP bar is filled up all the way, and then Barrett is in the middle of filling up his first one, presumably because he is in the middle of making an attack right in the screenshot. Other than that, nothing too out of the ordinary. You got HP, MP limit, and then there is this triangle prompt that also actually comes out on top of Cloud's actual character model. Now, before I get into that, I would just like to point out that the general placement of everything in this screenshot also, to me, points to this not being fully action-based, because if you had a regular third-person action game, typically, you have your main character in the middle of the screen and then the camera just kind of moves with you. But the way that this is placed, it looks like the camera is set, or at least moving around the boss, and then your characters are just kind of placed around the boss, similar to, you know, most turn-based games. Maybe this is me looking too much into it, but I don't know, I just felt like pointing that out. So yeah, if you actually look closer, you can see that the ATB bar has these 2 arrows that are pointing to the triangle prompt, so presumably they'll be able to do something with that. Clearly, ATB in this game is going to work drastically different than it did in the original game. If I had to take a guess, I would say that it's going to be something closer to that of Final Fantasy XII or Lightning Returns, which, although yes, were officially classified as action RPGs, anybody who's actually played them can tell you that they're a bit more of a hybrid than anything else. Some people thought that this may have been for the limit, but if you actually look at the UI, Cloud's limit bar is nowhere near complete, at least not the 3rd stage, and Barrett's down there is, yet the triangle prompt is not on him. And if we actually jump ahead a little bit to the 2nd screenshot, Cloud's limit bar is filled, yet the prompt is not there, but something that is different is that the attack menu over on the left side in the commands has a small little arrow pointing to the right, presumably so that you can hit right on the D-pad and then do your limit instead of regularly attacking. This is pretty cool because unlike in the original Final Fantasy VII, you're not going to be forced to use your limit as soon as you have it. You can still attack regularly. And I guess it's also worth pointing out that in both of the screenshots, the materia option is locked out, presumably because this is very early on in the game and the player still doesn't have any materia yet. Now, the R1 and L1 prompts near the command menu are very interesting to me, because this is pretty much the only thing that stands out about this part. Like, other than that, this looks almost identical to the original command menu from Final Fantasy VII, with the exception of this R1 and L1 thing right here. Now, maybe that is the option to switch between party members. That would make a lot of sense to me. If you guys recall, in the PSX 2015 trailer, we do actually see gameplay of somebody playing as Barrett, so clearly you can switch between party members. That's what I'm gonna go with. Maybe you guys have different theories on what this could possibly be. If you do, be sure to let me know in the comments, because this is pretty much the only thing that I could come up with for this. Other than that, the only thing that I guess is worth pointing out is the fact that there is 2 separate bars that are running on the enemy himself. Now, I know that they do have Japanese text on them, but as far as I'm aware, this has not been translated to English, so if any of you guys could translate that, that would be awesome. But yeah, if I had to take a guess, I would say that one of them for sure is the enemy's HP bar. Either the top one is the HP bar and the bottom one that is near him is the sort of ATB for the enemy himself. I'm not really sure. That one seems a little bit less likely, but this one actually makes more sense to me. The one that is near the enemy is his HP bar, and they're going to kind of be locked to the enemy similar to how they were in Final Fantasy XV, and the one on the top is actually the timer, because if you guys recall, in the original Final Fantasy VII, during this battle there was actually a timer going on until the reactor blew up, so maybe that's what that is up there. Also worth pointing out is the fact that this boss is actually where it is supposed to take place and where it did in the original game. Of course, in the PSX 2015 trailer, we saw this guard scorpion in the train, which is not where he was in the original, so presumably either that was just concept footage that's not actually going to be in the game, or you defeat the boss here, escape, and then he somehow comes back once you're on the train. I guess we'll end up seeing in the final game whenever that ends up coming out. Now, there isn't really much more to analyze in the second screenshot. There is, however, one last thing that I would like to point out in this one specifically, and that is basically the fact that Cloud is taking cover behind this crate right here, which presumably is going to be a new feature that works probably very similar to how it did in Final Fantasy XV, where if you go near somewhere that you can hide behind, you can press a button and then Cloud will hide behind there and take cover and not take any enemy damage from enemies that are far away, obviously. This is a pretty interesting feature, and we'd actually seen a lot like this in the last trailer, the PSX 2015 one, where Cloud himself was sort of crouching and maneuvering through a bunch of different areas with a bunch of abilities that looked like they would be useful in stealth sections of the game. I don't know, maybe? But the fact that we see this in this screenshot is just more confirmation of that. And that's pretty much all that I could find from these two screenshots. It's really exciting the fact that we're finally, after like over a year, getting more Final Fantasy VII Remake and Kingdom Hearts 3 related stuff, and hopefully we do get to see some actual footage for both the games sometime soon. We know now that Nomura really wants to show these off, so that's always good news, but I guess we'll end up seeing in the near future. Either way though, I guess that is all that I have for you guys today. I hope that you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to blitz that like button, subscribe, and as always, stay tuned for all things Final Fantasy! See you guys.